and right. Oh, straight. Can you freaking believe what we just did?
We did it. We did it.
After 3 races in the Best in the Desert Race Series, the S3 race team put Shreveport, Louisiana on the map when Dustin Jones and Shane Dowden won the Great American Off-Road Race, the Mid 400.
Winning the men has been a big deal for S3 Powersports. It built a little bit of a recognition for us.
The 2015 race season was supposed to be a learning year. Not only has the team proven that they are fast learners, they've also proven that a team from the Deep South can be competitive in desert racing.
We went from being nobody to, who's this S3 bugs?
But the question that remains is, can they continue to stay on the upward swing at the highest level of desert racing in the United States?
It's in a hurry to get everything going so we can get on the road.
In Shreveport, Louisiana, the S3 race team has loaded up their Can-am Maverick turbos, and they are about to make the 22-hour drive back to Las Vegas for the Silver State 300.
Seems like it's been forever since we've been out here. No, it ain't even been a month, has it? When was the last time we raced?
Middle of April.
This race will be the team's first go at a point-to-point style desert race.
We'll leave out here today and we're going to drive till we get tired and then stop. Get them to drive the rest of it tomorrow.
With any type of racing not being a cheap venture, Mr. Mal has decided to drive his RV out west and stay at the starting line.
A little bit more comfort, I think. It's going to be a long dude to drive, though. I'm a little nervous about that when it's my turn, but it'll be good.
We'll have some fun playing the dirt for a while. Forget about all this work.
About kill people every time we drive straight through. So it's dangerous to drive 22 hours straight through the night. Make the drive a little easier, a little less stressful.
The stress of the long drive and all the travel is starting to take its toll on the team.
The travel is tough on all of us, especially, the few of us that drive out there.
In order to be competitive, they must put desert racing first and foremost as the #1 priority in their lives.
It's tough on me to travel that far just to get to race, building the cars, prepping the cars, and also running the business.
No one knows hardships more than co-driver Shane Dowden. Shane was recently married and has his first child to provide for.
Racing in general, it's time away from your family, but every person has to have a vice. They have to have an outlet. Sometimes I ask myself that. Is it worth it? But the bottom line is, you're only going to be able to do this once as well. So, it's a sacrifice either way.
Having the opportunity to compete in the Best in the Desert Race Series is a dream that has come to fruition for the S3 race team.
Hey, Dust, if you want, we just go ahead and tie on to this trailer.
Not only is the series brutally tough and unforgiving, but each race is also different from the last.
It's already Thursday afternoon. There ain't nobody here, man. We're the first people out here. There's just some porta potties, and that's it.
The Silver State 300 starting line is 2 hours north of Las Vegas, smack dab in the middle of the Nevada desert.
It's going to be quiet out here now,
To say the least.
Crickets, maybe a coyote or two.
Ain't nobody here. We'll be out in the desert all by ourselves tonight. We are literally in the middle of nowhere.
We'll be having a cow chip party out here tonight. Some cheap entertainment.
Not a soul in sight, not a start line, not a camper to be seen.
All I got to do is wake up, walk outside, get in my car, and go. So it's not going to bother me to stay out.
We're going to drop some trailers and camp out here, and some of us are going back to Vegas. So what we thought was doing the right thing. I don't know.
In order to be successful at the Silver State 300, competitors must 1, be fast, and 2, have a good pit crew.
I was very excited about the Silver State 300 because we had heard some things about it, how it was kind of more like a rally race.
The Silver State 300 is what is known as a chase race. The race is one high-speed 300-mile loop across the brutal Nevada desert in which your pit crew isn't stationary.
They had to chase us. They had to navigate and beat us from pit to pit.
Race teams have the option of 7 pit sites to choose from, with the option of stopping or pushing their car as far as they can.
This posed a whole new dynamic for our group, being that we were going to have to try to keep up with 2 different cars.
A seasoned pit crew is an invaluable asset. The S3 race team, though, just happens to be short-handed.
Fortunately, because of circumstances, a couple of our guys weren't able to make it, and so we're a little short-staffed at this race. We're a little undermanned right now.
With a skeleton crew consisting of only a few familiar faces, each of the S3 Can-am Maverick turbos are limited to a 2-man pit crew.
Part of racing, man. You got to adapt and overcome, you know. You got to deal with the circumstances you're handed, so.
You know, it's a challenge. We've never done it. So we need to do it right. Hello, Mr. Corey.
How you doing, sir?
Oh, about to lose my voice.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You go karaoke last night or something?
No.
In order to become more competitive in the Best in the Desert Race Series, Mr. Mal has decided to leave the Pro Limited side-by-side class and has moved to the Open class.
Changed my front suspension to make it illegal.
Perfect.
For pro.
Perfect.
In hopes to give S3 racing a better chance to podium in more classes.
You know, they can run motorcycle engines, snowmobile engines. They can run dual shocks. I mean, it's unlimited.
All right.
The Open side-by-side class is just as competitive as the Pro Limited class, with the difference of allowing competitors to modify the motor and suspension.
You know, try to squeeze some more horsepower out of these things and see what they'll do.
Since S3 Racing is always looking to expand, the team feels like it's a smart move.
It was a more formidable class to where we could test some new products on, test some performance upgrades for the cars.
Dustin and Shane, on the other hand, are still riding the high of winning the Pro Limited side-by-side class at the Mint 400.
We'd already accomplished all of our goals for the season, so going to the Silver State, we didn't have any expectations. We just wanted to go out there and have a good time.
He said if we bought 2, he'd sell them to us for $550.
$550 watches, they better be freaking off the chain.
They made like 5 of them. They say Mint 400 on the front, Mint 400 on the back.
You buy them not to wear them or to wear them?
No, I'm buying it to freaking keep. But I'm not buying one unless you buy one where we can get them for $550.
I'm too tight, dude.
That's what I told the guy there. I said, I'll see if I can talk
tight.
my driver into buying one. I said, he's the type of watch it. Let's go look at him.
If getting the whole shot at the Polaris Razor UTV World Championships didn't put S3 racing on the map, then winning the Mint 400 surely did. Dustin and Shane know that they need to have a good showing at the Silver State 300 to prove that S3 racing belongs in the desert.
No, I don't think it's a fluke. I don't think it is at all. I mean, we can't fly under the radar anymore. They're actually going to take us serious, I guess you could say.
We just got out here to the start line where we got to line up early in the morning, and so right now we're loading all the tools up, getting the trucks ready. Not anything.
4 tanks per truck.
Mal's doing a little wiring while we're getting everything else ready.
It's going good. Everybody's pitching in and getting ready for tomorrow, so we're getting there.
We were kind of on a skeleton crew, so I feel bad because we got them spread so thin. We're missing a couple of key players, especially James not being here. He had some things that were a lot more important than racing. I'll tell you that right now.
S3 racing fabricator James Johnson is in Amarillo for the weekend. 2 days prior to the race, his father passed away from heart failure.
James Johnson is a very important part of our crew. He works tirelessly prepping our cars and is pretty well our pit manager.
What's sad is, man, it happened 3 hours from him showing up in Amarillo.
For him to lose his father, I can't imagine that happening.
James got his love of racing from his father, and along the way he taught James the necessary skills to be able to fabricate some of the wildest side-by-side builds in the South. Without question, Michael Johnson will be missed. Race day in Nevada. Over 150 trophy trucks, buggies, and UTVs line up to try their luck against the brutal Nevada desert. The Silver State 300 promises to be one of the fastest races of the year. Not only is the race fast, but it will test teams' abilities to maintain high speeds while driving in a fog of dust. To say that these off-road vehicles will destroy the ever-deteriorating 300-mile desert racetrack is an understatement. Unfortunately for the S3 race team, UTVs start in the back of the pack.
Everybody had us nervous about running behind the trucks because they were talking about how bad the sill beds get after the trucks run.
It'll be a long day. It's gonna be a hot day.
stay on the track, out of fences, and don't drive off a cliff. That's all we're caring about, just finish the race.
Man, we want to try to put the nerves to the side and have fun. That's ultimately what we do this for, is to just have a good time. You know, we want to learn and we want to try to evolve during the race.
Clap it up.
Tell me when. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
We were nervous about this being a chase race. We didn't want to overthink it, but we wanted to make sure we had everything taken care of.
In order for the chase trucks to be effective, teams must stock their trucks with anything and everything that the car may possibly need.
A little nervous, excitement, all at the same time because this is something new for us, but we'll make it work.
For the chase trucks to beat the S3 Can-am Maverick turbos to the first pit, they must leave the start line when the UTVs start staging. Before the race teams drew numbers for starting order, Dustin and Shane are leaving the line 7th, right behind fellow Can-am teammate Corey Sappington.
Well, Mr. Start Line. Of all the places, fancy seeing you here, Mr. Start Line. We meet you in the desert again.
Going to the Silver State, we didn't have any expectations. We just wanted to go out there and have a good time and rip in that car.
After already having a rookie season win under the belt, the overall S3 racing vibe for the Silver State 300 is much more relaxed.
You ready for this, old man? Yes, sir. I'm ready. Hey, how loud am I right now? Normal? How loud am I now? Normal? How loud am I now? Quiet? Am I really loud? Just only when you yell?
All our expectations for the season, we'd already reached those. And so it would kind of taken the pressure off of ourselves.
Is this you or is this me? Is this you or me? Yeah, I can't hear you. Okay, good. Okay.
Due to the high speeds, dust, and heavy traffic, vehicles are launched one at a time from the starting line at 30-second intervals.
You ready, Shane? Yep.
In order to be competitive, Dustin and Shane must push their Can-am Maverick Turbo hard enough to be fast, but still race smart enough not to cause any mechanical issues.
All right, a little left. Check engine lights on. Are you freaking kidding me? Now that clutch is over revving.
Barely 150 yards into a 300-mile desert race, Dustin and Shane are already having issues.
Freaking something wrong with it. Yep.
We had some low voltage issues. The car went into limp mode right out of the gate.
Voltage is down. Yep, just keep on going straight.
What happened is in the mid 400 when we had the power steering issues, it was drawing so much current that it ended up hurting our charging system, so our stator's bad on our Maverick.
The stator acts as a UTV's alternator. When the stator malfunctions, the appropriate amount of electricity doesn't move through the vehicle. Low voltage issues can cause an array of problems.
Turn my fans off for just a second. Voltage down again? Yeah.
In order to keep the voltage up, Dustin and Shane turn off the clutch belt blower and fresh air blower.
You kill our blowers for a minute. I got my helmet cracked. Okay. Let's do that while we can. Okay.
With at least 7 hours of racing ahead of Dustin and Shane, not having a fresh air blower is going to make for a long, dusty day in the Nevada desert. Meanwhile, back at the starting line, Mr. Mallet co-driver Bob Jackson are anxious to start the race in their newly designed Can-am Maverick Turbo Unlimited.
Here you go, Bubba. Let's have fun, brother. Yes, sir.
It felt good. I mean, the nerves weren't that bad.
Thank you, Casey. Thanks, Casey.
You know, we were trying some new stuff. Weren't real sure how some of that was going to work out.
We're off and rolling. Slight corner through here. We got fairly straight for almost 2 miles.
Mr. Mal and Bob are off to a fast start.
Doing good, Mr. Mal. 63 miles an hour. Staying fairly straight. Gonna be a slight pull to the right.
Well, the car was running tremendously well.
One down. All right, to the left, to the left. Hard left, right here. Stay in. You got it straight away through here.
Got on smoke and fire roads, and we were able to spool that thing up.
Staying straight, 77. Staying straight. Looking good, no dangers. Rolling.
In their newly renovated Can-am Maverick Turbo, Mr. Mal and Bob are quickly moving through the unlimited class. 10 miles ahead, Dustin and Shane have been keeping a fast pace as well.
Good job.
But their early hard push toward the front of the pack may have been ill-advised.
Right here, turn. Which way? Left, 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 left. You gotta tell me which way. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Then we freaking blow that corner out, yeah.
And then, that's just the start of the troubles for Dustin and Shane.
To the right. Axle's out. Are you serious? I can hear it. Okay, well, what's coming? I don't see. Get over here. Oh, fence. Okay, we'll stop right here. Get out here. Do you want to fix it? Yes, I want to fix it. Back up off the course so we don't die. People are going to blow. All right, unbuckle. Okay.
In order to fix the problem, Shane must first get out of the vehicle and assess the damage.
Check the front. Check the front.
With every minute not moving costing Dustin and Shane valuable time, they quickly find the broken axle.
It's out. Did you get it in? No.
Actually, both CVs pulled out of the front differential.
Pull the whole axle out then.
Some of the splines on the axles were tore up, so we couldn't get them back in there, couldn't get the car back into four-wheel drive, and so we had to run a two-wheel drive.
Without four-wheel drive, Dustin and Shane will have to rely heavily on their rear axles carrying the load of the drivetrain. But at least at this point, they're still in the race.
Go before somebody comes.
At least down 5 to 10 minutes just right off the start. I mean, it's unfortunate, but you got a long race, so you've got a lot of time to work back to the front as long as you don't have any more major issues.
Meanwhile, 5 miles back, Mr. Mal and Bob are gaining on the leaders in the unlimited class.
Hold your pace. We gaining on it. Gaining on it. I'm trying to pick up our car.
The car was performing so well.
Perfect running.
You start thinking, you know, we're going to do well today. This is going to be a good day.
We're gaining on them hard.
As soon as Mr. Mal and Bob start to get closer to the leaders, the brutal Nevada desert rears its ugly head.
Doing good. Something wrong. Yeah, the header pipe broke.
The header pipe connects the exhaust to the manifold. Without the exhaust working properly, the Can-am Maverick Turbo will still move forward, but without the turbo.
Easing to the right. You want me to tell them get a header pipe? Yeah, we got one.
That's part of it. You keep going until the car physically will not move.
S3 Racing, do you have a copy? S3 Racing, 2918 needs a header pipe. Staying straight, bowing to the right, then bowing back to the left.
In order to stay in the race, Mr. Mal and Bob must keep their Can-am Maverick Turbo together for another 50 miles to get to the pit.
Staying straight, gonna start bowing to the right.
In the meantime, they just have to hope that the Nevada desert doesn't cause any more damage. Dustin and Shane are back on track and once again chasing the leaders.
Keep on going, just drive, we're doing good. Uh-oh. Thank you, trophy truck.
After destroying their front differential, they have to solely rely on two-wheel drive.
It's not good, but you still have a little bit of hope to work back to the front.
Go good. Go back left. You gaining on them in the slow stuff. Back to right.
Just being able to complete a best-in-the-desert race is a victory all in itself. The Nevada desert has a familiar way of exploiting any weakness in a team and their vehicle.
Yeah. Keep on going. Everybody's okay. They're away. They're getting themselves up. So right.
It's a very stressful situation just to be in these races because of the magnitude of the race.
Watch that rock. Back to the right. There'll be a sharp left.
Yeah, naturally, we talked about it and said, man, let's just try to take it easy and have fun. And, you know, if we don't do good, at least let's make the most of it.
While pushing your vehicle to the limit, what can go wrong will go wrong.
Either flat or the axle broken to your right.
And that's what's happening to Dustin and Shane.
Keep on going. To the right. Keep on to the right. Feel it? Yep. Let's change it. Let's get out and change it. How far are we? We're not far. We're freaking... Dude, we're at mile 27.
Not even 30 miles into a 300-mile race, Dustin and Shane are forced to pull off course for the second time.
We might as well change that tire or that axle. We got them both here. You want to do? Yep, that's what I want to do. We got a long day. Get over the right side. We'll wreck like this.
Being that we could only ride in two-wheel drive, all the load, all the stress is on the rear axles now.
Okay, that's good. Watch your snakes when you hop out. Thank you.
Disappointing, but man, we were there to hustle, and so we jumped out and we went to work.
The Nevada desert has taken its toll on Dustin and Shane's Can-Am Maverick Turbo. With no chance to podium at this point, the guys are just hoping to change the axle and finish the race.
You're in a scramble to try to get your car back going, to try to get back racing.
By design from manufacturer of side-by-sides, when the drivetrain is put into a bind, a broken axle is the most common issue to have. In a shop on a lift, it's about a 15-minute job. In the desert, it could take upwards of an hour.
Gonna start bowing to the left.
Mr. Mal and Bob are still in the race. They have kept a good pace even though they have damaged the header pipe in their Can-Am Maverick Turbo.
Bowing left and long straight. They're done. He said keep going.
We blew past Dustin, Shane, and wow. Okay, you know, we're doing real good.
Bowing back right. I don't think the header pipe is broke. We got too much power. Yeah, it's running good. Something else. Joss is leaking somewhere. Yeah. Bowing left, bowing left.
Even though they are having mechanical issues, Mr. Mal and Bob are still covering ground, and they are doing it quickly.
Bowing to the right. Through here. Bowing to the right.
You're always apprehensive. You know, you don't want to jinx yourself and start going, man, we're going to do this and do this in the middle of a race.
Just a bow. Woo! I like it. Left turn, a little harder left coming up.
You know, any day of racing is better than a day in the office.
And back to the left. Oh, hang on. You all right? Yep. Come on, baby, hang in there. Get me to the pit. Yep.
While Mr. Mal and Bob inch closer to the pits, Dustin and Shane have finished putting a new axle in their Can-Am Maverick Turbo, and they are back in the race.
Go.
We were down to 30th place on the track. We were dead last.
Pressure's off now.
We're getting a little frustrated because we had mechanicals so early in the race.
Yeah, but we can get them to lose, we can get them to win now. We just got to finish, man. Let's just have fun, dude. That's what I want to do.
But we agreed. We said, dude, let's just have a good time. Let's freaking rip this thing, and let's just roll and see how we can do it.
Uh-oh, getting loose. Getting a little loosey-goosey.
Now that the pressure of trying to win is off Dustin and Shane, they can focus on better learning their car.
Left. Oh, that was the first place sportsman. Yeah, that Mal was chasing.
And rooting on their teammates.
I hope he does good, man.
Meanwhile, Mr. Mal and Bob have made it to the pit and are searching for the mechanical issues.
Bring the whole kit up here, Sid.
And they're in first place.
Had actually taken the lead in the unlimited, but you know that's what this racing is. You know, doing the best we can, keep them in the race.
We have a leak on the turbo.
What was thought to be a broken header pipe turns out to be an exhaust leak in the turbo, which isn't causing the loss of power that they have been experiencing.
Hey, that leak on the turbo's downstream. That's not hurting us.
Further investigation points to another culprit.
We do not have a broken header?
No, the rear spark plug wire came off the plug. We're fine. Plug wire came off the cylinder.
The team quickly puts Mr. Mal's Can-Am Maverick Turbo back together.
Repaired, patched up, and getting back on the road. Hopefully quickly.
In hopes that they can continue to lead the Unlimited class and win the race.
Just gonna head to pit 3, man. Try to be able to pit 3. Talk about it, have it over.
What's the other one?
We can get hey. Set back up a little bit.
Mr. Mal and Bob get back on the track only to find out that the problem hasn't been solved.
Still no power? Nope. Probably foul that plug. We get some heat in it, it may wake up.
Mr. Mal has one choice, and that's to try to make it to pit 3. Dustin and Shane started the day 7th off the starting line. After having multiple issues in the first 50 miles of the race, they are starting to get their Can-Am Maverick Turbo on track, and they have actually started to make up time.
Go ahead. Okay. Medium hard right here.
We were trying to work together and be as fast as we could and not tear up the car any more than we already had.
How about this just course to 8 up? Man, it's freaking chewed up. So us having to run in the back. Yep.
We start pushing. We're not pushing really, really hard, but we're pushing, and we start making up some ground.
Car's doing good. The suspension, yeah, it really is, man. Hard right. Been a couple of spots I thought was going to hurt that didn't.
Saw what the car would do, and we made up some time somehow, and we're actually doing pretty well.
You realize what we would have done if we kept I know. Easy, medium left.
Dustin and Shane have picked up the pace, and not only are they starting to put down a fast time, but they are also having fun.
Whee! Louise is where it's at. I like weeing. Whee!
Mr. Mal and Bob's situation, on the other hand, has gone from bad to worse.
Come on, sucker, wake up. Let's fix the light out.
Running well enough on one cylinder, we thought we could continue.
Give them injectors 10 minutes to cool down. Yeah.
That inadvertently caused other issues. It just wasn't meant to happen.
After leading their first Best in the Desert race, Mr. Mal and Bob are forced to shut her down and throw in the towel.
We tried some things there, and it caused a problem. And there's something just called good old-fashioned luck, and sometimes it don't roll your way.
Mr. Mal and Bob are stranded in the desert and forced to wait for help to arrive. Dustin and Shane, on the other hand, are still pushing their Can-am Maverick Turbo and have surprisingly made up position.
The UTV up there, dude. Go left. Let's go.
Unbeknownst to us, we were actually making some progress.
This thing ain't down on power, bud. I'll tell you that right now.
We had worked up to 10th place physically and 14th place on corrected time, so we were in the top 15.
Man, you need to start wiping in the slow areas, okay? Start wiping in the slow areas, driving the fast areas.
We weren't going to give up. We were going to run the car until it physically wouldn't drive anymore, and so we just kept pushing.
Hard right, hard right, hard right.
We felt confident, that we could have a good showing.
For the better part of the day, Dustin and Shane have pushed their Can-am Maverick Turbo at high speeds.
Medium hard, medium left.
It's not until now, though, that they have their first run-in with brutal silt beds.
What are you doing? I'm trying to turn! You think I want to flip this thing? You jerked it out of my hand and freaking smashed my arm. Okay, you okay? No! Can't freaking feel my right arm.
A sill bed is going to be where there's been a lot of traffic through a somewhat dusty area, and so it starts breaking down the ground.
Sill is horrible.
I guess the best way to describe it is it's the same consistency as powdered sugar.
So we're almost out of it.
And it's tough to get there. Imagine filling up a swimming pool full of powdered sugar and trying to drive through it.
Dude, that's crazy that still did that, huh? Yeah, we had us freaking crossed up. I thought we was going over. Yeah, I did too.
After a near miss, Dustin and Shane continue their fast pace and start to look for a top 10 finish, which would be quite a feat after dropping back to last place earlier in the day. At the finish line, teams from all classes of trucks, buggies, and ATVs have been trickling in from a long day of desert racing.
Give it up to the young lady driving here and her co-driver. Great job.
As the sun sets, still no sign of Dustin and Shane. Until...
Well.
They show up with their turbo on top of a trailer.
Thing is done.
Must have gotten some powder or something.
It was a rough day for us. We were 20 miles from the finish and weren't able to get it done. So
We had a DNF, tough day. I mean, it's trials and tribulations. You got to learn. We'll learn and get better.
About 285, something like that, we broke down to where the transmission just completely locked up. At the end of the day, we do this because we love it and we enjoyed it. It was a fun day, if nothing else. It was a learning experience for S3 racing. It's disappointing not to finish, man. We had a great time. It's not all bad. We enjoyed it. And we're disappointed that we didn't do well, but we're not discouraged.
I always say if you don't win the race, you never lose because you learn.
The day after the Silver State 300, the S3 race team is heading home.
Nobody's left in the pit area, the parking area, except us, so everything hooked up, we're gonna roll out.
Drive another 22 hours back to Shreveport, Louisiana, but it's working.
I always wanted to do this. I love racing, and I love this style of racing.
It'll be a long day of driving and swapping and sleeping and driving some more. We all came home safe and we had fun, and so that's what matters to us. That's racing to us. That's a good time to us.
I